Welcome back, folks, to the Rusty Tub. Sorry for the rain. Today's recording is about how to move from a Tier 5 blood altar to the Guilty Pool, the creative item, the Everlasting Guilty Pool, in a mod pack called FTB Infinity Evolved Expert Mode. I'm not playing Skyblock or Skystone or Stoneblock or all those others. This is just our regular standard Expert Mode FTB Infinity on 1.7.10. And I want to talk about how to turn this creative portable tank into the Everlasting Guilty Pool, and mostly about how to get access to these crystal clusters, which you'll need for both the Tier 6 altar as well as creating the Guilty Pool itself. The biggest component here is an amalgam of the endgame magic items, but the most gated item, anyways, in my experience, has been the life shards and the soul shards. And those two items come from, if I can find my waypoint here, something called the Demon Invasion, which constitutes a pretty complicated blood magic ritual that you need an enormous amount of blood in your network, and make this complicated ritual through these stones, then summoning with these full alembics, which we'll cover briefly, and then it creates a demon portal that starts off very small, and this demon portal triggers the creation of these large demon villages. I have this village off in a spot that doesn't get chunk loaded. You need lots of terrain for the village to spread to, and once it does spread, then let's see if I can find a demon or two here. Occasionally a demon will spawn. Spawn rates aren't that amazing. You can see here this road is going out to, this will eventually populate with some new buildings. Where are they? So you get an idea what they look like. Sorry about this. They are not very, there we go. So that demon will drop some crystals. Fortune works. I don't know that I have fortune on this bow, so fortune is very effective here. These buildings all have chances to spawn chests, and every one of these chests has high-level dungeon loot in it. I don't know if it's jungle dungeon type, but you know, I picked up half a dozen portal guns and all kinds of good loots in the chests. So, to TLDR, with this ritual, is a very expensive, complicated ritual that automatically generates these structures. Over time, this structure will replace where the portal was. I don't know what that means, but it's pretty cool looking. This thing here at the top, the demon portal. I see. Okay, so that's the demon portal block that does all of this stuff. So, how do we get this started? There's a couple things to consider. I think I'm going to kind of go backwards from this is our goal to the very next level, which is how do you get a blood orb filled with enough life essence to be able to start that ritual. And I think that ritual requires, I believe it's 15 million. Let me see if I can. This is my divination sigil, which if you've done blood magic, you should be pretty familiar with the divination sigil. And if I right click on it, I have something like 73 million life points in my network. And that's because this altar, and I recommend making several altars, but this altar has these runes of the orb. Now, when you're building your blood magic, I usually fill these out with just blood runes. They don't do anything special. Over time, it becomes important to populate them with these powerful orbs. And so the rune of the orb increases the capacity of the orb that's sitting currently in this structure. So if I take that out and I right click on this, you can see that my altar's max power is only 10,000, even though it's a tier 6. There are some runes that augment that as well. And once I put this in here, it'll fill up my orb, my life point network. And there's 72 million in there, 73 million in there. And you need like 15 million. So you need a certain number of these orbs to be able to do the ritual at all. and I just leave my orb sitting there, no problem. So the ritual, you'll have to look, I think it's called Convocation of the Damned, and it requires these different types of, let's see if I can, Olympic. Oh, that's not it. Where is it? There we go. What are these called? Bell jars. So you get a bunch of these empty bell jars. I think it's one for I think there are 8 types. There might only be 6 types. And then you fill them up with the alchemical reagents that are specific to the ritual. Not all of them are used. You bring full jars over to the ritual site once you have the ritual stone set up, and then you can start the ritual. There's a really handy item in the game called the what's it called? Ritual Rod or something like that, which you can upgrade, the Ritual Diviner, which you can upgrade over time. And let's see if I can click here. Yeah, so you can continue to get increased variance of the Ritual Diviner. And the Ritual Diviner will set up, if you put all the runestones in your inventory, and you right-click the Diviner onto the Master Ritual Stone, it'll actually populate the whole ritual for you, which is really amazing because you have to deal with X, Z, Y axis changes. And it also means that you don't have to keep making all this chalk that you would otherwise have to make to turn the individual stones and stuff. So super recommend investing your time into getting this Ritual Diviner. I think you just like right I think it's like shift right click. Yeah, so shift right click will get you through the different rituals that you can make. And I think this one can do all of the rituals in the game. Okay. So moving on. One last thing here with this. So let's say, imagine that you get to the demon, the place where you're going to Spartan the demon thing. You got your Master Ritual Stone. You got everything set up. You put your bell jars down. There's this really awful system of linking your bell jars to the pylons that they have to go to. It's absolutely atrocious. You'll need to have this alchemical router, and you'll definitely need an alchemical cleanser, which allows you to clear what you're linking to. It's not very obvious. It took me a lot of experimentation to get it to work right. Don't get frustrated. Just be patient. I know it sucks, but I did spend maybe 20 or 30 minutes messing with this, attaching the bell jars to their appropriate parts of the ritual. I'm not going to link the ritual itself. You guys can find a video on that, no problem, on YouTube. So just personal considerations for expert mode. So this is the orb altar. So this is the altar that I have that makes a big orb for that convocation ritual. I want to show you what I did to feed it. Let's see, blood magic. Now, I think that you should probably create at least 2 altars. You want one that has the orb that stores your LP network, and you want one for crafting at the very least. I don't have the numbers right. You can see that some of my altars aren't fully populated, like this is a tier 5 altar. But this tier 5 altar is pushing, I don't have to do that anymore. I started by pushing them into lower level orbs so that they could fill my LP network to keep running these Well of Sufferings. Now the Well of Sufferings are hurting these witches, and the witches are using potions to heal themselves. If these despawn, if this chunk stops being loaded, all these witches die and they have to be replaced. I used Jailer Safari nets. Let's see if I have a chest here. It's been quite a while since I did this. I don't have it. I don't have any. So I used Jailer Safari nets and a mob spawner to generate all these witches. And these witches were used to fill the LP networks. I think maybe an easier system is to just have a mob spawner and spawn a bunch of witches in a spot and let the network go, and however you do that. This altar here is used for crafting, so some tips with crafting. You can only place one item at a time in the altar, but you can, excuse me, pardon me about that. You can stick stacks in at a time with transfer nodes, and then you can use item filters if you're pulling stuff out. That'll just pull my orb out. But anyways, just stick it on there, and you can use item filters to restrict what gets pulled out. And let's see if I can do this without breaking anything. Okay. So I've got item filters for like blank slates and stuff like that, and so you can do a stack of those at a time. It's kind of nice to set it and forget it. And so this here altar has transfer upgrades, runes of dislocation to allow for the transfer of blood from these altars over to this one. And I've got, I think if you look under the hood here, I've just got some ender tanks that are moving fluid around. There's one underneath there. You can use the divining ritual rod or whatever to do these rituals. I did those by hand. It was kind of tedious. So I think that checks everything. You've got your tier 5 altars, right? You've got a ritual to fill up your altar with blood. You've got another altar where you do your crafting stuff to get all your runes and to get it set up. And then you have to build up to that big altar where you have the orb holding all that LP. And once you can get enough LP, then you can do the demon ritual, and then the ritual allows you to farm demons for these 2 shards. I probably should have mentioned that in the beginning. These are the 2 shards that you get from those demons. As far as I understand, there's no other way to get those shards, and that will allow you to get the materials necessary, the last materials necessary for the crystal clusters. Here, you can use these to upgrade your altar. You can use them to make the high-level blood orb, which is why my network has so much, because my first orb, the lower tier orb, capped out at like 17 million LP or something like that, and then you'll be able to make yourself the guilty pool, and that'll be it. Then you'll have defeated the mod pack. And so the last closing remark that I'll say is, what an excellent mod pack. Excellent endgame goals. The last thing on the list is witchery. Unfortunately, there's no endgame progression linked into witchery, so witchery kind of gets left out, and there's a whole mess of things that you can do in that respect. So I hope you liked the video. I hope it was useful. Let's see if I can do this. If you have any questions, I should show before I go. This is for in particular for a Reddit user. This is my B situation. But yeah, if you have any questions, feel free to ask. I'll be around for the foreseeable future. This server is going to be running until February, something like that. So, anyways, cheers, and I hope you have a good day.